Okay, so this deep dive, we're actually starting not with a big victory, but with a crash landing.
Yeah.
June 6th, 1944, D-Day.
Right. Well, everything's happening on the beaches.
Exactly. An American pilot, Elton Thomas Fraser, has to put his damaged P-51B Mustang down near Rouen in France.
And that plane, nicknamed Jerry, ironic, right?
Sure.
It was mostly intact.
Yeah, Fraser's war ended there. But the plane story, that was, well, just getting started.
It's fascinating, really. This one slightly damaged American fighter. It basically becomes this instrument of truth for the Luftwaffe.
How so?
It forced their own top pilots to face facts, to completely shred all that propaganda they'd been fed about American planes being technically inferior.
And our sources show this wasn't just some random souvenir they dragged back. This was quite systematic.
Oh, absolutely. German salvage crews were very efficient. They got to that airframe, saw it was repairable, and basically put it on the fast track to Rechlin.
Rechlin. That's their main flight test center, kind of like their Area 51.
Pretty much, yeah. Top secret testing. And this Mustang wasn't just tested, it got a whole new identity.
T9 plus HK.
That's the one. And it became the star attraction, if you will, of a really unusual unit, the Wanderzirkus Rosarius.
The traveling circus. Sounds almost fun.
Maybe the name. But the mission was deadly serious. Theodore Rosarius was in command, reporting directly to General Adolf Galland.
And the mission was twofold, right? Gather hands-on intel.
And maybe even more critical, force their own pilots to confront the reality of what they were up against. No more illusions.
A kind of brutal tactical education, then.
You could say that. A very necessary one from their perspective.
Okay, let's talk about getting the plane flying again. I mean, the Germans were facing shortages. They didn't have P-51 spare parts lying around. How did they manage at Rechlin?
It really speaks to their engineers' skill, and maybe desperation, too. These salvage units, the Belge Battalion, were masters at finding and grabbing anything useful from crash sites.
So they knew Fraser's plane was a good candidate.
Exactly. Intact enough. But back at Rechlin, yeah, no manuals, no proper specs. They had to basically reverse engineer it on the fly.
So pulling parts from other wrecks.
Cannibalizing, absolutely. Instruments, hydraulic lines, whatever they could salvage from other crashed P-51s scattered across Europe. It was a real patchwork job, but incredibly skilled.
And then they painted it so it wouldn't get shot down by their own side during tests.
That was crucial. Full German markings, the T9 plus HK code, and then that really bright RLM04 yellow paint.
Where did they put the yellow?
All over the tail, the spinner on the propeller, and the entire underside. High visibility markings, basically saying, don't shoot, test aircraft.
And the guns. They took those out.
Standard procedure for testing. Remove the 450 cals, put in ballast instead to keep the weight and balance right.
But the real prize wasn't the airframe itself. It was what was under the hood, right? That engine. Oh, absolutely. The Packard 1653 Merlin engine, that was the heart of the matter.
A license-built Rolls-Royce Merlin 63. And the key bit of tech was that supercharger. The intercooled two-stage, two-speed supercharger, that right there is a massive technological leap, especially for high-altitude flight.
Okay, so break that down for us. Why is two-stage, two-speed such a game changer above, say, 20,000 feet?
Right. Think of a supercharger like a fan cramming air into the engine. Down low, air's thick, easy job. But you climb, air gets thin.
Right.
Now, a typical German fighter then, like the Bf 109, had a single-stage supercharger. Works great up to maybe 18,000 feet, something like that. Gives good power, though. The Mustang's 1,490 horsepower at around 14,000 feet was already impressive.
About above that.
Above 25,000, definitely 30,000 feet. That single stage just can't compress the thin air enough. The engine literally starts to gas, power just plummets.
So where the American heavy bombers were flying, the German fighters were struggling for breath.
Precisely. The Mustang's engine, though, that two-stage system compresses the air twice, first stage, then a second stage, and critically, it intercools the air between stages.
Cooling it makes it denser.
Exactly. Denser air means more oxygen, means more power, so the Mustang could maintain excellent power and climb performance way, way up past 30,000 feet. It could fight effectively right alongside the bombers.
So you have these veteran Luftwaffe pilots steeped in propaganda about crude American machines climbing into this P-51. What's the first thing they noticed just sitting in it?
Well, that skepticism probably vanished pretty fast. The first shock was likely the cockpit itself, the ergonomics.
Compared to their own planes?
Especially the Bf 109, notoriously cramped, built around this philosophy of minimum size. The Mustang felt spacious, comfortable even.
I read comments about the instrument layout being logical, the seat being better. Sounds trivial, but for an 8-hour flight.
It's absolutely not trivial. It's huge. It points to a whole different design philosophy, prioritizing the pilot's endurance and ability to function effectively over long periods.
And viability.
And stamina, yeah. Plus, visibility. Even in this older B model, the Razorback, pilots said the view was much better than the heavily framed canopy of the 109. They could actually see what was going on around them.
Okay, but the real revelation must have been when they actually flew it. The feel of the controls.
This is it. This is the core insight, I think. The German test pilot's own reports use phrases like beautifully harmonized.
Harmonized, meaning?
Meaning the forces required on the stick and rudder pedals felt balanced. For ailerons, elevator, rudder, it all felt right across the whole speed range.
So not too light, not too heavy.
Exactly. Crisp, predictable response. It wasn't twitchy like some German fighters could be, but it wasn't sluggish or overly heavy at high speeds either. It just felt solid, confidence-inspiring.
So if German planes were often optimized for lightness, maybe feeling a bit sensitive, the Mustang felt more like an extension of the pilot's will, but stable.
That's a good way to put it. Rock solid, but responsive. And this stability paid off. While the Luftwaffe 109 might have had a slight edge in a tight, slow-speed turn.
Which the Mustang pilot would try to avoid anyway.
Right. But the Mustang's handling meant the pilot could really throw it around aggressively, especially at high speed and altitude, without worrying about the controls stiffening up or becoming ineffective, which could happen with German types.
And roll rate. How fast it could bank.
Significantly better than the Bf 109, according to the German engineers' reports. That's huge for defensive maneuvering, for getting out of someone's sights quickly.
It really highlights these contrasting design philosophies, doesn't it? German focus on maybe peak performance, minimum weight.
Sometimes leading to designs that were maybe a bit fragile, yeah.
And the American approach seen in the Mustang.
Robustness. Huge safety margins built in everywhere. Where German design might trade some durability for that last bit of speed, the Mustang prioritized being able to take hits and keep flying.
Built to last, built to bring the pilot home. That must affect morale, too.
Massively. Knowing your aircraft can take punishment is a huge psychological boost.
Okay, let's shift to the big performance gaps the Wanderzirkus revealed. We've got the altitude advantage, sort of the P-51 fights where the bombers are, but the speed difference. That must have been stark in mock combat.
Undeniable. We're talking about the P-51B hitting maybe 440 miles per hour up high. Compare that to a standard Bf-109G around 386 miles per hour, or even the FW-190A at about 408 miles per hour.
That's a big gap, 30, 40, even 50 mile per hour faster.
Huge. It means the Mustang pilot basically owns the engagement. They decide when and where to fight. If a German fighter gets the jump, the Mustang can often just accelerate away. If the Mustang attacks, the German fighter usually lacks the energy to escape.
And it negated a key German defensive move, didn't it? The high-speed dive.
Absolutely. German pilots used to rely on that. If things got hairy, they'd punch the nose down and dive away, knowing many Allied planes couldn't follow without structural issues or control stiffening.
But the Mustang could.
It could. It was strong enough, and the controls stayed effective enough that it could follow German fighters right down into those high-speed dives. That escape route just wasn't reliable anymore.
Wow. Okay, speed, altitude,
yeah,
and then there's the range. This feels like the strategic killer app.
It truly was extraordinary. German fighters, they were lucky to get 90 minutes total flight time, often less in combat conditions.
Transit time, fighting, getting home.
Right, the Mustang. With external drop tanks, it could stay airborne for over 8 hours.
8 hours. That completely changes the air war strategy.
Fundamentally. Remember, early in the war, the Luftwaffe could afford to wait. They'd let the shorter-range Allied escorts, like early Spitfires or P-47s, reach their fuel limits and turn back.
Yeah.
Then they'd pounce on the undefended bombers deep inside Germany.
The Mustang slammed that window shut.
Completely. Continuous fighter cover all the way to Berlin or Munich or wherever, and all the way back. There was basically no safe airspace left for the Luftwaffe interceptors.
So the Wanderzirkus Rosarius bundles all this information, all these hard truths, puts T9 plus HK on a sort of road show in late 44.
Yep, touring operational bases, flyovers, ground inspections.
And mock combat, showing frontline pilots what they were facing and presumably how to counter it.
That was the idea. But the results, well, they were sobering, to say the least. When Luftwaffe pilots in their own 109s and 190s went up against the captured Mustang,
They could win.
they found they couldn't force the fight they wanted. They couldn't reliably get into a sustained turning battle, which was really the only regime where the Brioff 109 held a slight edge and only at lower speeds.
So what would the Mustang pilot do in these mock fights? You mentioned energy tactics. Can you maybe explain that a bit for listeners?
Sure. A turning fight is mostly horizontal, right? Going round and round. The Mustang pilot wouldn't play that game if they could help it. Energy tactics are about fighting in the vertical.
Using that engine advantage.
Exactly. Use the superior speed and climb rate. If challenged, don't turn, tightly extend away, climb, convert that speed into altitude, which is potential energy. Then you're above your opponent, holding the advantage, and you can dive back down to attack on your own terms.
So the Luftwaffe's standard playbook for dogfighting just didn't work against the Mustang.
Pretty much obsolete. You couldn't outturn it reliably, you certainly couldn't outclimb it or outrun it at altitude. Your best bet was a quick, high-deflection shot, hoping for a lucky hit, and then hoping you weren't chased down.
While the pilots are having these difficult flying lessons, the engineers back at places like Göttingen are digging deeper, right? Not just flight performance, but how the thing was built.
Yes, and this is where the intelligence became almost strategically terrifying for them. They weren't just impressed by the design, they were analyzing the materials, the manufacturing processes.
What did they find?
Extremely high-quality materials, advanced aluminum alloys, specialized steels, and maybe more importantly, evidence of incredibly sophisticated mass production techniques. Consistency, quality control on a scale they couldn't match.
So it wasn't just what the Americans built, but how they built it and how many they could build.
That was the crushing realization, the sheer industrial might behind it. American factories were churning these things out. I mean, by early 1945, they were building almost 900 Mustangs a month.
900 P-51s a month.
Yeah. That one aircraft type was more than double Germany's entire fighter production across all types combined. It wasn't just a better plane, it was an avalanche of better planes.
That must have just been soul-crushing news for the Luftwaffe leadership and engineers, seeing that stamp on the metal, knowing what it represented.
It basically confirmed the war was already lost on the factory floor. Germany's dispersed, struggling production, hampered by bombing and material shortages, just couldn't compete with that kind of consistent, high-volume, high-quality output.
And bringing this stark reality back to the frontline pilots via the Wanderzirkus, the psychological impact must have been devastating.
Utterly demoralizing. You're shown point-blank that the enemy plane is faster, climbs higher, dives better, the pilot can see better, and it can stay up there 6 or 7 hours longer than you can even dream of.
And compounding that was the training issue.
A tragic factor. Chronic fuel shortages meant new German pilots were arriving at the front with maybe 100 hours total flying time, sometimes less.
Facing Allied pilots with hundreds of hours in a superior machine.
Exactly. So the intel from the Circus, while maybe tactically useful in helping a pilot survive one more encounter, was strategically just. It hammered home the hopelessness of the situation.
So stepping back, the P-51 story, especially through this German lens, it really shows sound American engineering judgment, doesn't it? They didn't chase every last foam for theoretical performance.
No, they prioritized what mattered for the mission. Speed, yes, but critically, range and high-altitude performance. It was perfectly tailored for that strategic escort role.
A holistic design approach.
Absolutely. Integrating that amazing engine, the clever aerodynamics, the pilot-focused cockpit, it all worked together as a system, a war-winning system.
And what happened to T9 plus HK, the specific plane we started with?
Records show it was lost on December 10th, 1944. The exact circumstances are a bit murky, but it didn't survive the war. And the Wanderzirkus itself just sort of faded out as Germany collapsed in 1945.
A fascinating footnote.
But the insight it provided, the most telling thing wasn't just the speed or range numbers, it was that professional admission from the German test pilots, the best they had, saying they'd never encountered handling like it.
That professional respect, acknowledging the American engineering.
It just demolished the official propaganda about technical inferiority. It was validation from the adversary themselves.
And maybe the final thought for you, our listener, is this. The story of the traveling circus shows that even the best intelligence, the most detailed tactical knowledge of your enemy,
knowing exactly how good that Mustang was, how to maybe fight it,
ultimately that knowledge can't overcome fundamental disadvantages. Things like overwhelming numbers, superior industrial capacity, and just relentless production.
The tactical lessons learned from T9 plus HK might have bought a few German pilots a little more time, but it couldn't change the outcome. The war in the air was being won, fundamentally, on those American assembly lines churning out planes like L.T. Fraser's Mustang.